Hello, and welcome to the True Voices Youth Grants Community Information Session. We'll be discussing information relevant for your application and going through a few questions. This will be recorded so it can be shared at a later date, so please add any questions you have anonymously in the chat. So my name is Sunny, my pronouns are they and them. I'm the program manager at It Gets Better Canada, and I'm really happy to be leading you today in starting your journey in applying for our youth grants. Now, the agenda for this meeting will start off with going over It Gets Better Canada's missions, and then the campaign purpose for the True Voices grants. We'll share some key dates with you. We'll go over the eligibility criteria, talk about some sample project ideas, and then we'll go over the application process before doing a Q&A at the end. Our mission at It Gets Better Canada has always been to empower, inspire, and uplift 2S LGBTQ youth across the country through the power of storytelling and community building. We've been a registered national charity since 2016. We do a lot of storytelling on virtual spaces, social media, our website, YouTube, etc., sharing stories to reach 2S LGBTQ youth to empower them and uplift their voices. We also do programming for middle, secondary, and post-secondary spaces, as well as working with youth in virtual spaces and community spaces. Now, this campaign I'm very excited about is our True Voices grant-making initiative. It was launched by It Gets Better Canada to empower, inspire, and encourage 2S LGBTQ secondary students from coast to coast to coast to lead projects addressing the challenges that 2S LGBTQ+ youth and their communities are facing. The grants are 5K and are funded by It Gets Better Canada with financial support from American Eagle. The It Gets Better Canada funding project grants runs from September 2025 to June 2026 in all 10 provinces and territories to support projects that uplift and empower 2S LGBTQ youth. We hope that these grants will allow for students across Canada to experience more welcoming school environments and that you'll be excited to engage with them with your students. Now to go over some key dates. Application portal closes on May 6th, 2025, so please make sure that you submit your applications before that date, as we'll be reviewing the applications in May. We'll notify the grantees of the final decision June 2025, and we'll also be announcing the grantees in June. July and August, we'll work together to put together the paperwork and disbursement of funds, and then the grant does require you to submit progress reports. The reports are in October, January, and April, with a final report in July. Now to go over the eligibility requirement. There are 5 types of eligible organizations. I'll go over them in the next slide, but make sure that you are one of those types of eligible organizations. Because as a registered charity, there are a lot of restrictions on how we can grant money. So it's important that the organizations and projects the funds go to are eligible. So it is also required that you are associated with a public school district or secondary school. The projects also have to take place between wrong slide there, but September 2025 and June 2026. The projects also have to be student-led. The projects have to clearly benefit 2S LGBTQ youth. So we want to know, how are these projects helping 2S LGBTQ youth? How are they benefiting the youth in your community? And also this impact should be measurable and be able to be evaluated. We also want to make sure there's no infringement on copyright or use of copyrighted materials. And when it comes to the budget, it needs to be an appropriate use of funds. For example, grant funds can't be used for research, political activities, scholarships, or individual needs. That means grants cannot benefit only one student. No funding should go as well towards time or creative time for anyone affiliated with the school. But you can offer honorariums to people brought in from outside the school for their expertise. Now, the eligibility in terms of the types of organization are listed here. There are 5 types, but you can fall into more than one, so you can select more than one options. You could be a registered charity under the Income Tax Act. You can be a registered municipal or public body performing the function of a government. And that way you can receive official donation receipts and are eligible to receive gifts from registered charities like us. You could also be a nonprofit organization that is incorporated under the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, or you can be a school authority, or you could also be an established GSA or similar student club sanctioned by or under the supervision of an eligible school authority. Now, it is important to note that for charity or nonprofit organizations, the project does need to be related to a committed public secondary school or school board. you need to apply. Sorry, you need to apply in cooperation with the school authority. You also can apply as a group of schools. So if you have multiple schools, for example, three schools that want to come together and work on a project, you can apply as a group as long as you have a lead school and contact person. But do be aware the grants are awarded up to $5,000 per application, not per school. So that will reduce the amount of money you receive per school. If your school does not have a GSA or 2S LGBTQ plus related club or organization, do not hesitate to apply. During your application, we ask that you provide us some information on your school's history with 2S LGBTQ student support and curriculum, but this is not required. It's for contextual understanding. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can take this application. There's so many different wonderful ideas that we've seen. Some ideas we've seen in the past are events. For example, you could plan a book club, conference, or queer prom to bring together 2S LGBTQ youth. You could do something in the digital storytelling realm, like produce a podcast or web series to open conversations about issues affecting 2S LGBTQ youth in your community. Or you could do a print project, for example, publish a zine or anthology of poetry, short stories, and essays by 2S LGBTQ youth. There's a lot of different directions you can take this project, and we're happy to talk to you about your project if you'd like to. You can reach out to me. But you can access any of these sample project ideas either on our website or in the guidelines for the application. Now, to go over the application itself, the first part of the application will be an eligibility form, followed by these 6 sections. You'll access the application on Submittable, which requires you to create an account but is free to use. It allows you to save a draft, and also you can invite collaborators like students to work on the draft with you. I do want to say that it works on Google Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, but does not work on Internet Explorer. So make sure that you're using one of the supported internet types. As we discussed, it starts with this eligibility form, and once you've completed that, you'll be able to move on to filling out the rest of the application. And I'll go over that application with you now. Go. So once you have submitted that eligibility form and been deemed eligible, you'll move on to this page where there's some information about the grant. There's also some things to keep in mind. For example, the application will be closed on May 5th, 2025. Remember that deadline. You can also get the guidelines as a PDF form here if you'd like to take that to think about with your students. And if you have any technical questions, submit a resource centers there, or you can contact their customer support. So you've been deemed eligible. You can now go through all the sections of the application. We've broken it down. Sections 1 through 3 should take about 30 minutes to complete. Section 4 through 6 should take about 2 hours. As a reminder, you can always save your drafts and return to it later. Once you've moved on to here, you then fill in the first section, which is contact info. You can name your project. This is not official. Just come up with a name for your project. For example, Gender Affirming GSA Podcast at Winnipeg High School. We're also asking that you upload a screenshot from your school district/board's website recognizing your school. This is just for our files to determine that you are, in fact, a secondary public school. This is where we talked about our eligible organizations. Remember, you can select as many as you'd like, but you will select which type of eligible organization you are, then name your eligible organization here. So, for example, you might be the Gender and Sexuality Alliance under supervision of Alexander High School. You also have to put your school name because even if you are a charity or nonprofit, you still need to be associated with a school authority. You need to have a secondary school committed to this project. So school name, school province territory, city. Also, please link your website. And then we get on to specific contact info. So faculty advisor, this will be the lead person in terms of faculty on your project, providing information there. And then we also want to make sure that you have good student involvement and that the students are, in fact, taking a lead on this project. So hopefully you can find a student who is committed to the project and help you with this application. Put the student leader name in here. And then we do ask that you also include the legal representatives of your eligible organization's names and email. This would be anyone with authorized signing authority. For example, might be a principal or vice principal at your school. We move on to the second section, school environment and club information. This is just to give us some context on where your project is happening and the needs of your school. So the first question is, do you have a school GSA or similar club? Again, you will not be penalized if the answer is no. We're just wondering. Now, these are some questions on the environment at your school, including the greatest challenges and need of 2S LPS students at your school. How does your school currently address bullying and harassment? And then, will your grant project receive support from administrators at your school? Explain why or why not. This is again just to see what the challenges are at your school and what's being done currently to overcome them. And then the third section, project vision. So this is moving on to now talking about your project, painting a vision for the future at your school, some things to keep in mind. So we want to know how your youth grant application will, firstly, address the challenges faced by 2S LPS youth and support their physical and mental and emotional well-being. And secondly, help build community while aligning with the central idea of a world where 2S LPS youth are free to live authentically, equally, and to know their worthiness and power as individuals. So this is the mission here, really important to keep in mind as you're writing your application, your vision for your project, that these are the overarching kind of goals and themes that you might want to think about. The first question is to provide a project narrative, which must include a thorough breakdown of your proposed project. This is where you can access that sample project narrative descriptions here. There's lots of good information in there on some sample ideas. Pull from that to come together and think about what is your project going to look like. Then we ask for some specific objectives that are aimed at uplifting 2SFC youth. What do you hope to achieve from the project grant? And then we also are looking for a timeline. And this is to be a timeline between September 2025 and June 2026 because the project has to be completed within that time frame. Please take a look at this template here. You can copy this and use this. It's a nice, easy way of laying it out. If you have a template that better suits your project that you're very confident about, feel free to use that. But this is a really easy template to use here. We also ask that you describe how your project will support the needs of the 2SFS students at your school. Describe how the project is led and created by 2SFS students in specific roles. We want to know what the student involvement is. It's really important that these projects are led by the youth. So we want to know what kind of roles will they take on, what will they be responsible for. And then how will you evaluate and measure the success of your project? What metrics will be using to demonstrate the impact your projects had for your organization, within your school, or for 2S youth? So when we take our social science skills out and we start thinking about how we can evaluate the impact of our project, whether that might be surveys or attendees or audience members or viewership, anything like that. So, and lastly, in this section, what are the challenges or barriers you foresee for a successful execution of your project? How will you address the above challenges and barriers? Please explain thoroughly. And we are now in section 4, deep in the middle of it. So, how could your project incorporate broader twists of youth involvement within your community, if any? This is kind of more of a additional criteria section. So we're just wondering, is there any partnerships that you have? Will you be inviting community members to maybe an event that you're having? Are you working with any 2S youth organizations in your community? Anything like that. These are all just for additional criteria points. So this next section is really all about bonus points here. So there's a bunch of bonus point questions here about the demographics that you're serving. So does your project focus and aim to uplift to us LGBT youth in rural or remote communities? Does your project focus and aim and uplift on primarily Francophone youth who identifies to us LGBTQ+? We also have one for Indigenous youth who identifies Two-Spirit or LGBTQ+. Does your school have 50% or greater Indigenous, Black, and people of color student population? And then this last question has no impact on score whatsoever, but we're just wondering, will It Gets Better Canada be able to publicly exhibit and present your project? For example, if you're producing a book, will that be something we'll be able to share? Or if you are making anything that you might want us to share? Now, this very important part, section 5 of 6, is the project budget. We got to know where that money is going. So you will be asked to provide a budget here. There's a budget template that I encourage you to use and basically just break down the expenses that you foresee in your project. And then enter in how much you're requesting for this grant. I also encourage you to apply for the full $5,000 whenever possible. We really want to be awarding the full grant money. And this next section clearly demonstrate how funding will effectively support 2S LGS youth and describe your expected outcomes. Just sum up how this budget will use and what this budget, the impact of this money will be. And then if you receive the grant, what is the process for receiving and spending funds? It's important for us to know because some schools require funds to go to a school or district board account, while other funds might be sent through a nonprofit by a fiscal sponsor. Any requirements around how the funds are to be received or spent should be shared here. And this last section, our conclusion, is a video portion. The video, it has a 3-minute limit. We're asking that your school and your project come together and create a video to tell us why you want to make this project, what your project is, anything like this. Why would your school and this project make the best recipient for this grant? While we love seeing the educators involved, please encourage students to participate in this. We really want to see the student leaders shine. But note that your submitted videos will remain private. They're only going to be viewed by the selection committee at It Gets Better Canada. They will not be publicized, put in any public space, or viewed from anyone outside of the organization. So you can include that video here. There's file type specificity, but if you have any issue with any part of this application, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help work with you on this. You can reach me at programs@itgetsbettercanada.org. You can also use the info section of our website or ask or the submittable help lines as well for any assistance. The most important part of this is make sure that you hit that submit button right at the bottom because we will not be reviewing any unsubmitted applications. So please hit that apply button. All right, going back to our PowerPoint. Are there any questions? No worries. We will be happy to answer questions at a later date over email. Please, again, reach out to me at programs@itgetsbettercanada.org. I'm happy to discuss your applications and help you out with anything you might need. Have a great rest of your night.